Calvin and Hobbes was a daily newspaper comic strip that ran from 1985 to 1995, and it's still one of the most influential and beloved comic strips of our time. Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes follows a 6-year-old boy named Calvin and his stuffed tiger Hobbes as they go on daily adventures exploring the world around them. The same way Charlie Brown and the Peanuts had defined newspaper comic strips in the 1960s, Calvin and Hobbes dominated the late 80s and early 90s. One of the best themes of newspaper comics has always been pointing out the humorous similarities between childhood and adulthood, and that was the beauty of Calvin and Hobbes. It was like Calvin was a child and an adult at the same time. Calvin could give a philosophical pondering on the nature of the universe, but could also just spend his day just building a snowman. When Bill Watterson first managed to get Calvin and Hobbes published in 35 newspapers, he was warned not to quit his day job yet. But very shortly after this, Calvin and Hobbes blew up, and within a year, his strip was published in over 250 newspapers, and had great success, not only in the United States, but worldwide. Since then, Bill Watterson has won a ridiculous amount of awards for Calvin and Hobbes, including a Reuben Award for Cartoonist of the Year twice. So with all this success, why was there never a Calvin and Hobbes animated series or movie? We've seen countless iconic comic strips be turned into films and television shows, so why did one of the most famous comic strips of all time stay just a comic strip and nothing more? Bill Watterson has always been a fan of animation. In a 1989 interview, he expressed an admiration for animation and lauded at the fact that animation can get away with a bizarre exaggeration in a way that comics can't, like a human turning into a giant eyeball to show surprise. Bill said he was in awe of good animation. However, later in that same interview, Bill said he couldn't decide if he ever wanted to see Calvin and Hobbes animated, despite his admiration for the animated art form. One big reason was that he found the thought of hearing Calvin's actual voice scary and uncomfortable. He also was not into the idea of working with a team, as the fewer people involved in his work, the more he likes it. Bill took pride in the fact that he wrote every single word of Calvin and Hobbes on his own with no help. He also made an interesting comment about book film adaptations, saying, "Books are almost always better than the movie made from them because there are things books do well and things movies do well, but usually those things do not overlap." Bill Watterson also had no interest in making Calvin and Hobbes into a film either, for the same reasons. Bill was approached by Hollywood heavyweights like Steven Spielberg, Jim Henson, and George Lucas, who all had interest in working on a Calvin and Hobbes film, but Bill said no to all of them. In 2013, Bill Watterson said almost the exact same thing he said in 1989 regarding animation and films. He said the visual sophistication of Pixar blows him away, but he has zero interest in doing an animated Calvin and Hobbes. Bill reiterated his point about film versions of books almost always being trash, and said there's no upside to him doing an animated version of Calvin and Hobbes because Calvin and Hobbes worked exactly the way he intended it to as a comic strip. So basically, there's no animated Calvin and Hobbes because Bill Watterson is extremely protective over his art, and deservedly so. While a lot of people would and have milked their art dry for every last penny, Bill is a man of integrity who chooses his dignity over a paycheck. This has also been evidenced by Bill's refusal to merchandise Calvin and Hobbes, as he felt Calvin and Hobbes showing up on coffee mugs, t-shirts, and stickers would devalue the characters and their personalities. You gotta respect Bill Watterson and you gotta love Calvin and Hobbes, but I think you also have to wonder, what would a Calvin and Hobbes animated series or movie have been like? I think it would have been pretty good, but part of the magic of Calvin and Hobbes is if you want to enjoy it, you have to read it, and that's pretty special. But what do you think? Would you like to see an animated Calvin and Hobbes? Sound off in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to Toon Fridge for more cartoon content. Gracias for watching.